URC Round 12 was a good round to be South African. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Round 12 threw up some fairly interesting results, and some games especially didn't quite go the way that we thought they were going to go, given the incidents that happened in them. But let's start with the Friday night games. So the first one was Glasgow Warriors 17, Cardiff 13. So Cardiff, actually started this one really well. They get a couple of penalties from De Beer, and then really nicely worked try for Thomas as well. Just really good hands and a nice break to start it, and just keeping that ball alive, and then he gets over to score. Into the second half then, and Glasgow start to turn things on. You have Williamson gets over first, and then Sardoni for a second try for them. Weir pops on a penalty there as well. Cardiff still have a chance coming towards the end. They're round about halfway, but I don't know why, but Bevan just kicks the ball out, and it was really weird because that ends the game. And they were saying in commentary maybe didn't hear the hooter or whatever, but it's even if it's close to the end, why are you kicking the ball? I don't get it. Like if you're accepting the losing bonus point, fair enough, just kick it off to the side. But he didn't. He kicked it as if it was trying to get into territory. So yeah, it was a bit weird, but decent performance by Cardiff. Glasgow though showing like that they've got maybe a little bit more metal to them than we've seen in previous years, in the fact that they were able to turn things around that second half and come back and get the win. So a decent win for Glasgow, a nice losing bonus point for Cardiff as well in that one. On Friday as well, we also had Ospreys 17, Munster 27. So Munster, I still don't know how Munster won this one. I think a lot of Munster fans are maybe scratching their heads, but Ospreys fans must really be scratching their heads. Ospreys played really well in the game, but the first try, Munster really well worked, good hands to get Daly over to score. Then Ospreys looking to reply. They're trying to find space out wide, and O'Brien intercepts, and then he's making a break. Giles is chasing him down. He is able to fend and get over in the corner. Then O'Brien intercepts again, kicks the ball forward. There's pinball everywhere. I don't know how the ball, first of all, stayed in touch, and then broke so well for O'Brien over the line, but it did. And then he's in for a second try. Then Ospreys, they start to kind of get a little bit, more possession, or well, not possession, but a little bit more territory, because they had tons of possession. But they get, over through Giles, well worked try for him, and he's that guy has decent gas there as well. Zebre gets a yellow card then, but they see out that period, and then they're looking strong in the second half. Parry gets over to score for them. Then Snyman just uses massive frame to be able to get over for the bonus point try for Munster. Towards the end then, Ospreys with another rally, and Carby has popped over a penalty just to make it a little bit more comfortable for Munster, but it's still a nervy ending because Cuthbert gets over in the corner. Good finish from him. Then not too long later, he has another chance to go over again in the corner, but this time he pulls up. I think he pulled his hamstring or something. Pulls up maybe 5 meters out for the line and gets bundled into touch when it looked like he was in behind and he was definitely gonna get there. I think other than him pulling up, it was a clear gimme try, and no one was gonna stop him. Because generally, normally you'd expect he would have had the pace to easily finish it in the corner. So maybe a bit of a let off from Munster there. Hopefully Cuthbert's not out for too long. But then, that kind of denied Ospreys the losing bonus point and the chance to potentially go for the win in the end. But Ospreys, of the two teams, I think clearly the better of the two teams. Thought their set piece and went really well. They put a lot of pressure on Munster in the scrum, and it was just a case of Munster were clinical and Ospreys had tons of ball and tons of territory, but couldn't really do anything with it. And Munster actually looked, for the most part, fairly comfortable in defence. And I think if Ospreys had maybe a bit more of a cutting edge, that's what they're going to need, I think, to get into the playoff spots, and to, if they get there, then to be dangerous in the knockout stages as well. But a decent win for Munster. But Ospreys, there is kind of the core of a decent performance there from them. It's just they maybe need to refine it a little bit, and we can see that they have improved a lot this season. Maybe they can, maybe it's not going to happen for them quite this season, but if they can build on that next season, they could be a real threat, I think, in the URC. Okay, on to the next game then. Sharks 22, Ulster 12. So Sharks only won one game this season. Ulster, they've just had Richie Murphy, Ireland under 20s coach, installed as a temporary coach, and then is it the chief executive or basically the guy that runs Munster Rugby? I think he stepped down today as well. I just saw the news about that. So Dan McFarland went earlier, and now he's gone as well. So it's all change at Ulster. I think that's probably going to be a good thing for Ulster going forward, because I know a lot of Ulster fans weren't they knew it wasn't just McFarland was the problem. It was a deeper rooted thing up there in Ulster. So hopefully we can get somebody decent in there and they can reset and kind of start building again. This one, they would have thought, going against a team that had only won one game this year, that they had a decent chance to win. And they start fairly well. Sheridan gets over from close range for a try. Then they're pressing for a second try. They're like 5 meters out. They lose the ball though. Sharks turn it over. They whack the ball downfield, and there's a big chase on. Will Allison looks like he's running in treacle. I think he may have been injured or something. I'm not too sure what was going on with him. But yeah, he just gets absolutely out sprinted from there, and it feels like then that they're going to get in for the try. There's a bit of scrambling from Ulster to try and prevent it. Ball goes loose then, and Buthelezi is able to pick it up and go over to score. Then the Sharks from there, they they're pressing again in the second half. Keita goes over to score, and they're taking a little bit of lead, and then Masuku pops on a penalty there as well, and it looks like a decent lead for them. Treadwell gets over for Ulster to give them a sniff at it, but really they can't produce much more than that. And then we just have a crazy period where Henderson has already been pinged. He's going to get a yellow card, but there's handbags, and Chituka and Hume, they're the two pulled out as the ones that escalate the whole thing. So it's 3 guys actually go to the bin at the same time, and we have 14 versus 13 for 10 minutes. Mbanambi gets over from close range for the Sharks then to pretty much seal the win. Like Ulster, they tried to get back to within losing bonus point territory, but couldn't really create anything towards the end. But the Sharks, I talked about it before, all the fundamentals are there for them. There's no reason why they shouldn't be winning games, and this is a well-deserved win for them. Ulster, clearly there's a big repair job to be done there, and it might be that they have to wait until they get back to to the Kingspan, and to maybe get another win, because it's the Sharks are probably the one that they thought they might win down in South Africa. So we'll have to see how it goes from there. But Sharks, a decent win for them. Again, Ulster, plenty for them to do. On to then the next game. So Scarlets 16, Benetton 13. Scarlets, early on, first couple of minutes, Costello pops over a penalty. But then, Benetton responds through Umaga, tied up at 3-3. Then Ratabe, a break down the left wing, kind of just brushes off Johan Lloyd. Like Lloyd was a bit weak in the tackle, and then he goes over in the corner. It's converted, and then a few minutes later, then Umaga puts on a penalty there as well, and they're looking pretty good. Like they're 13-3 up. Fell behind the first couple of minutes, but they seem to have established themselves in the game and expecting them to kick on from there, but it doesn't happen. And the Scarlets, they haven't had that many wins this season, but they look like they're up for this one. And the second half, then Costello just keeps them in it. A couple of penalties from him, makes it 13-9, and then right at the death, then Scarlets have a penalty, go to the corner. They set up the maul, and it's one of these ones where almost the entire team comes in, and they get that momentum going. And Swart, I thought, did really well to actually stay in field and ground just in the corner there. Costello converts then. The game was over anyway, so the conversion did not matter that much, but it was still a decent conversion from him, given that he was right on the touchline as well. Really good win for Scarlets against a team who have been one of the form teams this year. Benetton, though, losing their way a little bit, and it's kind of the wrong time of the season when to be out of form, really, when other teams as well are starting to come into form, and they're going to find it so much harder now to climb back up that table. So Benetton, I think this really was a body blow for them. Losing bonus point won't be that much consolation for them really in that scramble for the playoffs. On to the next game then. It's Stormers 43, Edinburgh 21. So the first one was like the first try for Hartzenberg. I think it was like a cross kick, and then one of the Edinburgh players was a Venter, fell over, and it just made it look so simple because Hartzenberg then was in acres of space and just collected the ball and went over to score. Had to work a little harder, I think, for his second one, but before that Henry gets over for Edinburgh as well. So Edinburgh kind of stuck in it a little bit at the start, but then have a couple of tries from Zas before halftime as well. In the middle of that, you have Bill Matta, or William Matta, I think is how he goes by it now. But he was really strong getting over for an Edinburgh score as well. And halftime, you're thinking like Edinburgh, they're doing okay, but they've got to produce a little bit more. But in the second half, it's really the Stormers who kick on. You got like some of the passing for their tries, like it looked fairly simple in terms of like a lot of it was just hands down the line, but the accuracy of it, the pace they were doing it at, meant that they're able to get out to the edge, and that's how they got Hartzenberg over again. Roos gets over for the first of his two tries. By the time Harrison gets over for Edinburgh, you feel like the game is done and dusted at that stage anyway, and then Roos tags on another one towards the end just to make this scoreline look even prettier for the Stormers. Were a really good win for the Stormers against a team in Edinburgh who were in pretty good form coming into this, and would have felt, especially in that first half, that they had a chance. But the Stormers just in that second half especially kind of pulled away there, and you can see now that they're starting to come back into contention in the league. And that's, I think that's when we talked about Benetton. That's the problem for Benetton, is that you have a lot of the big teams in the URC now starting to hit form. They've kind of timed their season very well to come into form when we're coming into knockout stages of the European competitions, and also kind of the sharp end of the URC. So next game then we had was Connacht 14, Lions 38. So Lions go over after 6 minutes and through Horn, and you're expecting like Connacht are never predictable. Any Connacht fan will tell you that, and but this game was just crazy the way it went. It felt like that. It felt like Connacht were maybe going to get themselves, a decent win here. Like we had, who was it? Andrew Smith, went on a crazy, mazy run, gets over the line and just at the last second then can't actually hold the ball. Is really good defense from the lines, knocks the ball out of his hand. But that would have been like one of the scores of the season from him. But then Connacht do respond through Prendergast then on 16 minutes. And just after that then we have, it was basically in the lead up to that. So there was a high hit, and it was Entla Bakanye, and he gets sent to the bin. Or no, sorry, he didn't get sent to the bin. It was a red card, right? There's no bunker in the URC. Referee actually said to him that there was high degree danger and no mitigation for it. So red card for him. So Connacht then have the rest of the game, against 14 players. And you think, okay, well, Connacht are a pretty exciting running rugby team. They should have more space now. They should be able to run up some scores. But no, it was the Lions that did that. Pretorius gets over on 25 minutes, and they're looking decent. They're ahead at the break. Then into the second half, then Van der Merwe is over as well for them, and Connacht respond through Hanrahan. And now again you're thinking, okay, well, surely Connacht are going to wake up now and make the extra man count. But no, last 20 minutes it was all the Lions. Cronje gets over, Horn over, and then right at the death then Vandenberg adds another one on there as well. And like the two last scores from Horn and Vandenberg were just really good play from the Lions. They were just finding holes in that Connacht defence for most of the game. Like Connacht's defence actually looked really strange, because they didn't seem to be aligned properly for a lot of the scores that they conceded. Obviously that's credit to the Lions pulling them out of position, but at the same time you could see players looking at each other and being frustrated and stuff like that. And it feels like something wasn't quite right in that Connacht performance, and especially in the defence as well. But all credit to the Lions to be able to go away from home, lose a guy after 17 minutes, and still score 5 more tries to get 6 in the whole game. Like, that's really good going from them. Great win from them. Missed opportunity from Connacht, but there was, in terms of performance, the Lions absolutely deserved that win. Next one then we have is the Dragons 10, Bulls 31. So, first of all, like Kurtley Aronsa, he gets over for the Bulls after a couple of penalties were exchanged between the teams. Then it's close-ish. Like I think the Dragons had a try ruled out maybe in the first half, if I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think they did. But it's close to half time. The second half then the Bulls got over again through Gumede, and they've got a comfortable-ish lead, but then it all happens then in the last 5 minutes of the game. Like Papier gets over for the Bulls, and then Dragons respond, a decent try from Baldwin, and then right at the death then Grobbelaar, he's scored a few tries now for the Bulls in the last few rounds, but he gets over for the bonus point try right at the death. Like, they left it very, very late to get over. They were like D was in the bin at this stage for the Dragons, so they had a man advantage, but they really made it count to get over. And in the overall like kind of shake up when we come to the end of the season, maybe that bonus point right at the end there could be an important one for the Bulls. It certainly is. Like, it's a decent win. They would have, although probably gone, they're thinking that their bonus point win was on for them, but to get to the 80th minute and then be able to deliver the bonus point try really is like the kind of a measure of the team as well. So really good from them. Dragons, for me, we talk like they got some decent players, but it's been a while now since I've seen them put in a decent performance. They've had a little bits of purple patches in games, but they need to, obviously under a lot of pressure, given how things are in Welsh rugby at the minute. But still, we saw, last year kind of in the, like, what was it? I guess you would say if you cut the season into quarters, the second quarter of the season, they had a bounce. But since then, like the second half, most of the second half of last season, and for most of this season as well, I've been fairly disappointed with them in terms of, they're not getting close to teams, and especially at home, I think you got to expect better than this, on a regular basis. I'm not just talking about this performance against the Bulls, I'm talking about in their totality as well. And that's why basically they're falling down the table at the minute, I feel. Okay, so the last game then was Zebre 7, Leinster 31. So Rob Russell, really well worked try. He gets over in the first few minutes. Then Turner gets sent to the bin. Leinster, they're still looking okay in the yellow card period, but then they mess up a line out, and Zebre turn it over, and then they get that ball out to Witt, and they get Trula over to score to even things up. Then Jamie Osborne then still down to 14 men, but Leinster managed to get over, get him over for a try. And then into second half then, McGrath gets over, to kind of give them a little bit of breathing space. And then who was it? I think it was Turner, right? Yeah, it was Turner. Made a really great burst. He gets pulled down just short of the line. The ball then is I think he popped it. Did he pop it, or I think he popped it to Penny. Then Penny went over under the post to score the bonus point try. And then at the end, then we have Russell gets over as well. Oh, I should have mentioned as well that Osborne, it's not actually, it wasn't Jamie Osborne. It's his brother's name is something like Andrew. Let me just check. I think it's Andrew Osborne. But he was on debut. And I thought it was a nice touch as well that Jamie actually presented him with his first cap as well after the game. So that was kind of a nice thing to see there. Yeah, it's Andrew Osborne. So he, like, dream debut really for him, like scoring a try on his debut as well. But Rob Russell did really well, a couple of tries from him. And, it wasn't spectacular from Leinster, but they're so good at this where, they can change the entire team, and what I call the URC team, really. These guys that I've watched, I've probably seen these guys play more now in the last few years than I've seen the so-called Leinster first team playing blue. But they're so good at being able to make all those changes, and it always feels like, honestly, that when the kind of internationals come in, that's when they're making changes, because this feels like the normal Leinster team to me at this stage. But they're so good with this team being able to just get themselves in position in games and get over for the win. Okay, so that is the roundup. We're going to have a look at the table now. So top of the table, we have Leinster there, 10 wins and just two losses. Glasgow in the first round, I think, and Ulster about 3 or 4 rounds ago now at this stage, but 49 points for them heading to the table. The Bulls, best of the South African teams, 9 wins so far this season on 45 points, still kind of in position that if Leinster do slip up, that they could maybe take top spot. Glasgow kind of similar there, except they've obviously got to get over the Bulls as well. And they did well to come back and beat Cardiff, but you probably would have, looking at, especially at the kind of relative positions and kind of performances of the teams this year. I know like Cardiff do have a lot of potential, but you probably would have expected Glasgow to have taken a bonus point out of that game. But having said that, the way the game went, Glasgow did really well to come back and win the game. So I don't feel like it's a bonus point loss for them. I think they basically won 4 points in that game through their efforts. But at the same time, that bonus point would have been so good for them just to keep there with the Bulls as well. Then Munster, the defending champions, rising up the table now and eyeing those top 3 positions now as well. Just 7 wins from them this season, but they have a draw, and they've been picking up a decent amount of bonus points. The same amount of bonus points as Leinster and the Bulls there as well. So they're on 39 points in 4th place, and they've got to keep that momentum going, because we've seen it with Benetton, and we're going to see with other teams as well, that it's so easy to feel like you're up there. You've gotten out of the pack, and now you're just going to be at the top, and suddenly you're dragged back in, and then you sink back under. And that's happened to a few teams. One team though climbing the table in 5th place is the Stormers. Really good win for them against Edinburgh. They actually leapfrog Edinburgh as well. They're on 35 points. Edinburgh dropping down. Edinburgh were in 4th place at the start of this round. Now they're in 6th, and they're tied with a number of other teams as well there. So they've got to hopefully rediscover the form that got them up into the top 4, and start climbing, or at least stabilizing their position there as well. Ulster now in 7th place, also on 34 points. And it's a very important period now for Ulster. New coach in there. There's obviously changes behind the scenes as well, in terms of the top of the organization, and it feels like they've got to work their way through that quickly and get a couple of wins under the belt in order to stay in that position. Lions, an excellent win for them away to Connacht there. They leapfrog Connacht as well. A lot of teams, South African teams, leapfrogging their opposition as well this weekend. So for them, that's really good to see. And now we've got 3 South African teams in the playoffs. So they've, I think, they've got the most of any nation at the minute. Well, joint most, because you got 3 Irish in there as well. But we've got 3 Irish, 2 Scottish, and 3 South Africans in there as well. There's a chance for other nations to get in there too, because if we look, first of all, we obviously got Connacht there in 9th place on 33 points, so just to point out, but Benetton as well, who unfortunately have been slipping down the table so much now. They're down now in 10th place, so they've gone from like 2nd in the table maybe 3 or 4 rounds ago to now 10th. It just shows how close it is this season, how competitive it is, and how that kind of mantra of URC Best League is becoming truer and truer as the rounds go by this year as well. But Benetton on 33 points there. Got to find a win. Got to find a couple of wins really, because even we're seeing one win can bounce you up, but then if you lose, you bounce back down. It's kind of yo-yo season really for a lot of these teams. Ospreys then in 11th place. So starting a little bit to fall adrift now. Like 3 points doesn't seem like that much, but it's the fact that there are so many teams above them now who are 3 or 4 points ahead of them, that it then becomes harder to make up that ground, especially if they lose the next game. So it feels like the next couple of games, at least they got to win at least one of those, and if they don't, then they could be completely cut adrift as the other teams kind of sort themselves out from there. But they're having a decent season now. Cardiff not 7 points behind them. 7 points is a lot, especially when you think, if you look at the table now, between Benetton in 10th place and Munster in 4th place, there's only 6 points. So 7 points between in one place is a lot, but still Cardiff, if they have a decent run at the end of the season, could actually catch Ospreys and overtake them. And that would be, I think, for this young Cardiff team, would be a decent goal, really, for them to be aiming at this stage. It doesn't look like they've any chance, really, of making the playoffs. It'd be a wonder end to the season for them if they did. But I don't think that's realistic, really. But then behind them, we have Scarlets in 13th place on 16 points. And again, it's kind of a mini league down the bottom there between those bottom 4 teams. At the moment, they're winning that. But Sharks now, that win against Ulster has now moved them up to 14th place. So, again, I think their aim for this end of season really is to get a bit of form going and to hunt, Scarlets down and to maybe pull away from those bottom 3 teams. I think that would be a decent end to the season for them. Zebre, who've been very impressive this season, and again, at this stage, they just need, I think, to find another result from somewhere, because they're getting to the point now where they've had their win and their draw, and they've run some teams close, but between now and the end of the season, I think the target should be to win one more game. And then finally at the bottom there, we got the Dragons, and propping up the table. And again, that's the problem for them, is that it was okay losing games when all the other teams around you are losing too. But Scarlets and the Sharks both won at the weekend. Zebre, although haven't been winning recently, have been getting the odd losing bonus points as well. Dragons really aren't getting much out of their games, and that's why I talked about when I talked about the game that I feel like they've got to find a result from somewhere. Otherwise, it looks like they are going to finish bottom of the league, because it doesn't matter how badly the teams above you are playing. If you're not picking up points anyway, you're never going to catch them or overtake them. So again, I think for Zebre and Dragons is kind of a similar thing. Both teams probably looking to try and get one win in the final six rounds of the normal season, right? That are left. So that's a look at the table, and it really is exciting, because when you think about last year, like it was around this time of the season when Leinster were miles ahead of everyone, and we were thinking about whether they're going to lose. I think they had a draw around this time. I can't remember exactly which round, but they drew against the Stormers at home, and then it was only towards the end really that they finally lost, and it felt like it was just a battle for second place. You had the Bulls and Ulster, and the Stormers, I think, were battling out for that. But this year, realistically, you look at it and you think that you have those top 3 there, but the gap is not big enough to rule out any of the other teams, especially the likes of Munster, from getting up there with a surge and disrupting those guys as well. And then you have just that massive train of teams from Munster in 4th place down to even the Ospreys in 11th place. Like, it's still only 9 points between Munster and Ospreys, and we've seen before where in other seasons where teams have had to make up 9 points just to make it into the playoffs, and that's how close it is this year, and it's probably why a lot of the games have been so exciting, because there's a lot riding on the games, and you can see it was brought really home to us this week with how a couple of teams winning and getting above their opposition as well, and that really is I think a big reward for a team when you can see that effect that, oh, we've beaten them and now we're above them, and now we just need to kick off from here. So a lot of teams, I feel like that there's going to be a lot of jostling there to the end of the season, and some teams are going to hit a really good run of form, and other teams are going to go the opposite way, and and it's so exciting just to think of who it's going to be. But we'll be back for the next round of games. I'm also going to be doing tomorrow a look back at the first round of the Women's Six Nations as well, because that was a pretty decent start there to that tournament too. So plenty more to come later on in the week.